called him too short, too small, and completely wrong for a sport built for giants. But what if everything they believed about bodybuilding greatness was wrong from the start? Because in a world where size, height, and perfect genetics decide your future, one man from Australia stepped in and shattered every rule without asking for permission. Imagine standing on the same stage where towering athletes dominate the spotlight and still making the entire crowd stop and stare at you. That was Lee Priest, a man who was never supposed to become a legend, yet built one of the most insane, controversial, and unforgettable physiques in bodybuilding history. And every time people said he was finished, he came back bigger, sharper, and more dangerous than before, proving that limits are not real when obsession is stronger than doubt. And today, his story still raises one question in every fan's mind. How did a man everyone rejected end up becoming one of the most feared and talked about bodybuilders the sport has ever seen? They said he would never make it. Too short. Too small. Wrong genetics, not the ideal bodybuilder. But what if everything they believed about greatness was wrong from the very beginning? What if the man they doubted the most would end up building one of the most iconic physiques the bodybuilding world has ever seen? This is the shocking truth about Lee Priest, the man who was never supposed to become a legend, yet somehow forced the entire industry to rewrite its rules. Born in Australia, Lee didn't enter bodybuilding with perfect conditions or elite advantages. He wasn't handed fame, he wasn't backed by hype, and he didn't fit the traditional image of a champion. But what he did have was something far more dangerous: obsession. While other kids were still figuring out life, Lee was already building muscle like his body was designed for war. And when he stepped into the spotlight as a teenager, people didn't just notice him, they questioned him, because his arms looked unreal. His muscle density didn't make sense. It was as if his physique belonged to someone twice his size. But the industry had already judged him. Too short to dominate, they said. Can't compete with the giants, they claimed. And that's exactly where the story flips. Because instead of trying to become something he wasn't, Lee Priest doubled down on what he was. He didn't chase height. He didn't chase approval. He chased perfection within his own frame. Every rep, every set, every drop of sweat became a message to the world. You don't decide my limits. And slowly something unbelievable started happening. His arms grew into one of the most talked about features in bodybuilding history. His muscle fullness on stage looked almost exaggerated compared to others. Fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. Photos spread everywhere. People argued online, is this even real? But Lee wasn't just building muscle, he was building controversy. Because unlike many athletes who stayed silent, Lee spoke his truth without fear. He challenged the system. He criticized the politics. He said what others were too afraid to say. And in doing so, he didn't just become a bodybuilder. He became a personality the world couldn't ignore. Then came the turning point no one expected. At times, Lee stepped away from the stage. The industry started whispering, he's done. He's finished. He won't come back. But every time they buried his name, he returned looking even more dangerous. Bigger, fuller, sharper. Almost like he fed off doubt itself. And just when critics thought they had figured him out, contest season would arrive and everything would collapse again. Because the transformation was unreal. The off-season weight gain that shocked fans. The stage conditioning that silenced critics. The dramatic shift from one version of Lee to another made people question reality itself. How can one athlete look like two completely different monsters in the same body? And yet, Through all the chaos, controversy, and criticism, Lee Priest kept doing one thing consistently: winning attention without even trying to fit in. Because that was his real power. Not just muscle, not just genetics, but individuality. In a sport obsessed with perfection, he proved something dangerous. You don't need permission to become great. You don't need the perfect body type. You don't need approval from experts who think they control the rules. You just need discipline strong enough to outlast doubt. Today, Lee Priest remains one of the most unforgettable names in bodybuilding history. Not because he followed the system, but because he broke it. He turned disadvantages into identity. He turned criticism into fuel. And he turned doubt into legacy. And maybe that's the real lesson hidden in his story. Sometimes the world doesn't recognize greatness when it first appears, because greatness doesn't always arrive in the shape they expect. It arrives in the form of someone who refuses to quit. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Bulk Empire for more legendary bodybuilding stories, untold journeys, and real motivation that goes beyond the surface.